Oh, it's time. Time to get radical.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Radical Comment of the Week for June the 16th through the 22nd. These are the very best comments from that time period. Starting out with the almost honorable mentions, we have Haddamton Rose, ServBot42, and Art Bell. The first honorable mention comes to us from Rasta Populus. Personally, I see story as icing on the cake. I'm not interested in the gameplay of The Last of Us. Games are supposed to be interactive media, with the interactive part being the focus. If the gameplay doesn't interest me, or the game is broken, and I wanted to play it exclusively for the story, I just watch the whole thing on YouTube, since that would be the same experience in that case. This isn't a jab at The Last of Us. Not liking the gameplay is really just my opinion. That being said, I'm 100% against scoring a game above the average of 6 if there's nothing particularly engaging about it other than the writing. Unless we're talking about visual novels, and for the sake of simplifying it, I'm including games like Heavy Rain and Telltale's games in this category even though they're not. A game deserves to have points reduced if its story is lacking or if it's flat out bad. But I'll also always defend the fact, as video games, they also need to be judged by isolating the context and seeing if the gameplay and playable content holds its own. Games need to justify why someone absolutely needs to experience them firsthand instead of watching someone go through them. Anyway, I agree. Reviewers don't always affect sales that much. Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy VII Remake didn't rate that great on Metacritic for their series standards, and yet both games sold insanely well. Pokemon Sword and Shield is significantly lacking in content compared to past entries of that franchise. Reviewers didn't omit that, and yet the games are on their way to outsell most Pokemon games. That's not even counting the more casual games that critiques don't care about, but have mass appeal and sell ridiculously anyway. The opposite works too. Xenoblade Definitive Edition was praised more by critics than Final freaking Fantasy VII Remake and outscored it on Metacritic. Yet there's no way Xenoblade will sell even half of what 7 Remake will end up selling because, no matter what the reviewers think, it simply doesn't have any mainstream appeal. The only time when Metacritic matters is for niche titles, because their audience is a lot more picky about what they're buying. Nowadays, there are so many sources of information that it feels like reviews are only useful when you're absolutely on the fence about a game. We get so goddamn many remakes and sequels anyway. Most people know they will buy the games as soon as they watch the first trailer. So many sell on the brand name and studio logo. Thank you, Rasta Populus. The next honorable mention comes to us from Boston Rock Spot. This is the result of the everybody gets a trophy generation becoming adults. It doesn't apply to everyone. People got soft on kids, being their friend instead of their parent. I see it all over the place. We have a generation of kids who don't know what it's like to actually lose or to be told because it would affect their self-esteem. For example, when these kids become adults and their first job they apply for turns them down, they're ill-equipped psychologically how to deal with rejection and disappointment because they've never been told no, and they think life is all unicorns and rainbows. The government then takes advantage of this by dumbing down people via lowering the passing grades. Academia then lowers their standards to get into the prestigious universities, and Hollywood keeps entertainment to essentially the third grade level. Now, working with your hands is considered low class, and guidance counselors tell kids that the ticket to an easy life is a college degree. Mine told me that, fuck him. We have a media that is 100% agenda driven and take any story that they can and spin it into the culture and race war to deflect from the fact that the U.S. government have long overstepped their authority and abandoned the Constitution. Instead of focusing on their failures, they keep us fighting. That's what they want. They want conflict as a way to get what they want out of fear and emotions. Don't believe everything you see on TV or read in the newspapers or internet. Question everything. We are not each other's enemies. It's not black versus white, yellow versus red, Muslims versus Christians. It's us against them. What we see now are the results of a generation incapable of critical thinking who don't question what they've been taught. In conclusion, this whole mess of cancel culture needs to stop, and the focus should be on police reform. and removing these icons off of well-known brands is a slap in the face of black community. This is setting race relations back to 70 years thanks to the mindless drivel that is our media. Thank you, Boston Rock Spot. And the last honorable mention comes to us from Des Ross. I don't think Joel deserved a heroic death, talking about The Last of Us 2, I don't think Joel deserved a heroic death. No one in this apocalyptic world does. The problem is they make the characters from the first game idiots in order to prop up new characters and to further the plot. Joel has shown consistently that he doesn't trust strangers. From the beginning of the first game, when he makes Tommy leave that family on the side of the road, to years into the apocalypse, where he barely even trusts or wants to deal with a young Ellie when they first meet. He meets Abby, patrolling, and they not only give up their names and locations, but they also offer for them to come back to town and take valuable supplies. It was like brand new characters that were completely unaware of the events of the first game. How did Joel get less paranoid if he killed Marlene because he knew they'd be searching for him? Just lazy writing. Abby then decides to leave Tommy and Ellie alive strictly for plot purpose, despite them knowing Tommy is Joel's brother, who was a very capable former Firefly. Then Abby acts shocked that these people will track them back and kill all of her friends in 3 days. Ellie circles her routes and locations on a Seattle map like she's a preschooler, and then leaves the map at the enemy hideout for Abby to find and use to track her down and eventually cripple Tommy. The characters in this game act like complete idiots. Thank you, Des Ross. Now getting into the medal ceremony, and a couple of these medalists here are multi-pagers. Yeah, it's that kind of day. The bronze medal goes to Scary Jersey Guy. Laugh out loud, what do I think? Brutally honest equals a wishy-washy opinion. This game should probably be the easiest game in the world to review, because it's one where people are legit going to be 100% invested in the reviewer's opinion on one singular area, the story. We all know the graphics and gameplay are going to be amazing. It's a friggin' Naughty Dog game. They always knock it out of the park with graphics and action, and their games are always fun. Now, how about that story? Hoo boy! Now, I've already got shit for my feelings on this, especially since I already said I'm not interested in playing it, but it isn't because of what most people are going on about. Personally, I think it's cool they're finally going forward with putting those kind of characters in games and allowing people to have a new perspective. My whole thing is that Ellie and Joel's story should have been donezo, and we get to see an entirely new cast of characters in an entirely new part of the world trying to survive in this ravaged world. Maybe revisit them traveling later on in another installment, like a chapter in a book. This just struck me as, we want to try something new, but let us quickly throw this old junk away first. The people are going to let their voices be heard, especially when directors and developers make controversial decisions for pre-established characters and franchises, whether it be through Metacritic, YouTube, Reddit, etc. However, generalizing those who don't agree with these decisions as bots, virgins, jealous Xbox fanboy Sony haters is disingenuous, and it reeks of shillery and fanboyism in itself. If I could summarize the biggest problem that most people have with the game is how a pre-established beloved character is treated in the game. It's how badly this character lets their guard down and behaves just so the new hero of the story can achieve their goal. How badly Naughty Dog fails at getting you to sympathize with their new hero, which behaves and acts as a villain in some cases. As far as creative decisions and fan divisiveness goes, The Last of Us Part 2 is or will become to video games what Star Wars The Last Jedi is to movies and what Game of Thrones Season 8 is to shows. If you like it, that's great, but you should have the capability to understand why many others wouldn't. So, instead of focusing on the radical actions of a minority part of the critics, looking at the complaints of the majority is a more accurate representation of why The Last of Us Part 2 story is a bit shit. Well, this comment and the last honorable mention, you have these characters that are clearly established. And the problems that this game has, a lot of people call it the Last Jedi of video games. It's when you take characters and you make them completely different from one installment to the next. In the series of The Last Jedi, you had Luke throwing away the lightsaber. Okay, what the fuck is going on here? You know, I mean, it didn't make any sense. It betrayed his character. He didn't betray his character. The writers betrayed his character. What is it about like so many media trying to go out of their way to take these old beloved characters, and usually they're male characters, to take these male characters and to either dumb them down, to make them stupid, to make them bitter, angry, hateful, in the case of like Luke in The Last Jedi, or in this case, to take Joel and to make him kind of fucking stupid and to make him do stupid things. And you have characters that, and there's many problems that go with the story, and there's many problems that go with the writing of the story, and you can bring up agendas in this, but they could have done it a lot differently. I said before, you know what? They could have killed off Joel. They could have. They could have even done it, in a brutal way, right? Because you would imagine that. You would imagine that, especially given the setting of the world. But the whole setup to that, like I said, he's basically just acting like a completely different fucking character. I'm not going to go on one of my rants, but I do have previous uploads where I, go into my rants on The Last of Us 2. One thing you bring up earlier in the comment is you thought they would actually go into a different story. Many people thought, the story between Joel and Ellie, it ended perfectly, I mean, the first Last of Us was a great game. And you have a heartwarming story between Joel and Ellie. And at the end of it, a lot of people question, should Joel have done what he did? But you get the motivations for the characters and what they do. And I think revisiting that in the future might have been smarter. Okay, if they wanted to shoehorn in Abby and some other characters, they could have just had this be about them. But you know what? That wouldn't have sold a lot of game copies. No. The person that leaked, whoever leaked it, did a great service to a lot of people. Because obviously, and I say this because of this reason, they had Joel heavily in the marketing. I hate when they really heavily market a sequel, and then shortly into the sequel, they kill off part of the marketing. They just kill off part of the marketing. Joel was marketed very heavily in this game, and then was killed off in that manner really early in the game. And then it becomes something completely different than what you think it's going to be, right? It was not like, I get the misdirection, but it's not the worst false marketing. I think the worst false marketing was actually Halo 5. Remember all that marketing for Halo 5? All the epicness when you have like Master Chief and then the other guy, Locke, I think. And it was supposed to be the whole game. You're thinking, okay, it's about, hunting down Master Chief, right? All of it was about that. But then, you play the game, and you're like, well, this is fucking a letdown. I just don't like that when they hype up and build up a game and it's completely different than that, right? Thank you, scary Jersey guy. I forgot your name for a second there. I know your name, but I mixed you up with the other comment there. Silver. The shiny silver. It's also a 2-pager. Woo, killing me with these 2-pagers. P.O. Box Christmas. It all comes back to Woodhawker, manipulating his audience. I promise you. As soon as he mentions Nintendo doing him wrong in the video, he also mentions that Nintendo maybe, just maybe, could have axed him because he is so depressed and is such a huge humanitarian to the cause of depression awareness. Sad face to audience. Of course, he does this, and of course, his fans attack Nintendo on social media, and then he plays innocent to it all. Now, how did I know this would play out just like this? Simple. Because Wood clearly has a pattern. A few minutes of research on YouTube will easily confirm this. What he did to get his fans to attack Darius Truxton's channel this year is exactly what he did last year to get them to attack this channel and Gamesta's channel. Bottom line, Wood got mad and came over to Radical Rick's channel because Rick called the Game Chasers e-beggars, and it was getting a lot of attention. Wood later used Gamesta's comments as a way to gain sympathy from his weirdo followers. Hundreds of Wood's fans attacked Gamesta's channel after Wood made the "I have depression, I need your help" video. He monetized that video, by the way. Yes, he monetized his video on depression just like John Hancock monetized his video on school shootings. Those e-beggars have no shame. Wood is a manipulator and a bully. He is such a big personality now that he needs to be on multiple YouTube channels. He's on Beat 'em Ups, his wife's channel, Game Chasers, his new Wood Hawker channel, and is all over the place on YouTube in general. For somebody like him with a huge fan base to assault and bury these small channels is clearly bullying. There used to be an unspoken rule on YouTube that big channels don't attack small channels, but Wood's fans are psychotic children who think Wood is Jesus. This is seriously a cult thing. Go watch his videos where he fake cries and gets his eyes red in the thumbnail. Rick has pointed out Wood's sad face. Thumbnails many times now. It's been a running joke for most of us. In Wood's latest depression video, he revealed his new channel and that his live stream will be from a studio sponsored by a company with their logo all over it. So yeah, just as Smash GT pointed out a while back, his depression charity is making money for all the people who are involved. Last year, Shady J was there during the stream. Great timing for an upcoming Game Chasers movie, huh? Wood has monetized depression, period. He has bastardized depression and marginalized it. He has convinced people that getting likes on your video cures depression. He actually says this himself in This Is Me video. He did a depression awareness live stream last year, and then he and his wife went on a huge Nintendo Switch buying spree, and then they went to Japan. Wood got both a cast and a crew credit in the Game Chasers movie. He is not even a good spokesperson for depression because every day is Christmas for him. He's fake. He made an apartment flood video where he acted like he was drowning in half of an inch of water and wet his own hair before the video for dramatic effect. He takes gifts from children. He openly shills energy drinks. People could easily just go donate to a charity on their own if they really care about people who are really depressed and skip his attention fest live stream. Don't take my word for it. Research for yourself. Yeah. The hole goes deep with this motherfucker. All right. I think I broke a shovel. Shovel digging on this motherfucker, right? Truly, if there's probably one person that it makes me a little depressed talking about this person. But I don't legitimately have depression, but I do get sad. I do get depressed. I mean, where do you start with this guy? I don't even want to get started. I mean, that's how bad it is. There are so many levels to this person. There's so many fucking things you could focus on. And that's why I and many people consider him one of the worst YouTubers on this platform. It's not just a P.O. box stuff. It's not. It's what did someone else say? Someone that didn't make it into the comment of the day. They said he has professional victim. Who coined the term professional victim? He is a professional victim. But here's one thing I disagree with you on this comment. I don't always agree and disagree with everything, but I do recognize this as a silver medal because it's the second best comment of that week. But one thing I disagree with is you say that a bigger channel, it automatically means bullying when a bigger channel talks about a smaller channel. YouTube, in my mind, is an equal playing field when it comes to criticism, right? Now, if Wood Hawker has any kind of an issue, and he's came here before, if he has any kind of an issue with me or my criticism of him, then it's his business to talk about that. Okay? So I'm not going to stop him from saying his piece, and he damn sure ain't going to stop me from saying my piece. All right? We just need to get out of this mindset of, a bigger channel and a smaller channel and a smaller channel, bigger channel. Okay? Everything is equal when it comes to wrong and right. People should focus on wrong and right and not subscriber numbers. I keep telling people this. I'm like, people judge people unfairly by their subscriber numbers. People come to a channel and they say, well, your opinion doesn't matter. Obviously, you're a small channel. Your opinion doesn't matter. This right here, this is proof positive. This is a small channel. This is a admittedly small channel, but I put my uploads and commentary right up against a lot of fucking big channels. And there's channels smaller than me that probably can outdo me in commentary in some ways, So the thing is, we need to get away from, I'm sorry, I went on a side tangent. Sorry, I'll try to stick to your comment, okay? But we need to get away from this idea of judging a channel by its subscribers, okay? So everybody just get in the habit, when you go to a channel, quit looking at the subscriber number, okay? experience the upload and judge somebody by their uploads, all right? That's what we need to get in the habit of doing. But yeah, the fakeness, the fake cries, mud depression. The other comment that didn't make it in talked about the fake depression. Now, I am not a doctor. Right? I have not evaluated this individual. I cannot give you an evaluation over YouTube. I can't. But let's say, for the sake of argument, let's say this person actually does have depression. It's a weird behavior for someone that actually has depression to be so outgoing in the uploads and to be so happy about the P.O. boxes, because that makes them happy. And the gold medalist goes to Nacho Gamer. I like Radical Reggie. He seems like a nice guy and someone you can enjoy a pizza and some gaming with. I think he's, from the Metal Jesus Rocks crew, probably the most enjoyable and humble of all, at least compared to John Hancock, who seems to get a boner by knowing he has the most expensive game of every console. With all that being said, I have an issue with Reggie. As much as I love gaming, I think this dude is just wasting his life on this. Come on, he has to be closer to his 40s if he's not there already. The man has no house, no car, no girlfriend, not even a pet. After I saw how his life revolves around getting the last Holy Grail, which only lasts a month because next month there is something else, then I learned something about myself. I have hundreds, if not thousands of games, and while I do have a bed frame and a decent car, at least it has gas in it, I realized that it was time to move on to something else. I'm not leaving gaming. However, I went and sold all my in-box consoles and made a curated collection for me based on my real taste in gaming. Then I proceeded to get all the money and invested it in the stock market because I think it's a better use of your money than having 4 copies of Haunting Grounds like this jerk and his Game Boy lover friend showed us last month. My point is that Reggie gave me a lesson. I simply didn't want to become him or any of the other man-children that we see on this platform, surrounded by a bunch of plastic and CDs that most likely will be rotten by the time I finally decide to play them. I think this guy needs medical help because it's not normal to live in what seems like a teenager's dungeon that he clearly never cleans without some kind of future. He might be e-begging now and getting by, but how long is that going to last? How long until more people start feeling like me and leave his channel? Also, what kind of friends enable you into this kind of life? The guy buys every game at least 2 times. Once for PS4, and also for the mighty Switch for when he is on the go. Go where? You don't even have gas in your car. I have to admit, it was kind of hard to get rid of the first pieces of gaming, but when I saw my house looking like a grown man, and not a GameStop, I have to admit, the bad feeling went away. I still have a lot of games, but they all fit on one shelving unit, and knowing that I kept what I really enjoy and love, instead of a constant reminder of what being a hoarder looks like, and what a future loser feels like too. Whew, man. Nacho. This is a really deep comment, and this might hurt a lot of feelings. Sometimes I hurt feelings also. But people gotta understand, there were times in my life where I would even be considered what you would call a hoarder. There are things I'm looking at right now that I probably should really sell or throw away. But it's hard to. It's hard to let go. Part of your comment was talking about moving on. Sometimes it's time to move on. I mean, at every point in our life, there's points we get to where we got to move on from something. Or maybe it's destructive. Or maybe it can even be something like YouTube, right? Let's say if YouTube is really not for some people, or if you're getting too involved in it, sometimes you need to either move on or take a step back from it. Talking about game collecting. I've said it many times before. If you're at the point where you're collecting so much, you forget what you own, or you need a game and you're trying to justify it if you're getting multiple games for multiple different consoles and you have no intentions. Let's say, you're saying to yourself, well, I love this game. I need to get it on the Switch. How often do you leave the house? How often do you even leave the house? And if you leave the house, you're driving a car. So, you're not being driven around. You're not in the back of the car. And, maybe if you're at the DMV or something, you pull out the switch. I just don't. And you bring up being a full-grown man, right? You have full-grown men, and this is what's going to really bother a lot of people. Maybe, just maybe, if you're a full-grown man. Now, if you have your life in order, if you have everything in order, let's say, whatever you want to achieve in life, you got your life in order, you got money in the bank, you got a beautiful family, then hey, it's time for hobbies. It's time for hobbies. Just do whatever you want to. But if you're in a situation where, the car is questionable, you're drinking expired soda, and yes, dear Lord, baby Jesus, yes, you are sleeping on the floor. You do not have a bed frame. I know some people sleep on the floor, but if it's by choice, you got to stop it. It's time to move on at some point. I mean, what are we going to see? We're going to see a 70-year-old radical Reggie in 30, 40 years? Is everything going to be exactly the same? I mean, some people might say if that brings you happiness, then who are you to criticize? I'm not the guy that has multiple copies of one game multiple times that is never, ever, ever probably going to even open the case and play the game. And you say, now I can't verify this, that he buys 2 of every game. Well, obviously you buy 2 of every game. You buy 1 to keep sealed and 1 to play. No, actually, you got to do that for every console. Let's say if a game comes out on the PS4, Xbox, and the Switch, you got to buy 1 to play and 1 to keep sealed. But wait. What if it's in different languages? Well, then sure. You have to buy 27 copies. Okay? 27 copies just to make sure you have everything. Unless there's maybe a defect. Then you got to get 28 copies. It's sad to see him in his little living space, surrounded by nothing but games. And you bring up that it's a reminder to you of what can happen to you. And it says a lot that you see that and you're like, well, shit, I don't want that kind of life. I don't. People say, well, what's it your business if someone's happy? Who are you to say that it's a bad addiction? Well, it's pretty much obvious. If you're collecting 17 copies or whatever of one game because it's valuable or something, or multiple copies of things that come out, then there's a problem. Now, I don't know about you, and you said you've downsized and you have pretty much one shelf. People sometimes think that I have this huge gaming collection, and outside of broken 360s, I don't have a huge gaming collection. In fact, I probably have more than I really do need. Definitely more than I really have time to play. So like I've said before, and a lot of collectors come here. There's a lot of collectors that stop by the channel, and they get boners whenever they hear that I'm going to do, showing off my games and everything. I get that. It's fun. Collecting things can be fun, but it can be a problem. It can quickly become a problem if it's getting in the way of other things that, could be giving you happiness. And there are some sad people, and maybe they don't know how to change their lives. Maybe they, can't form personal relationships with other people. Maybe they're shut-offs from the world, and the games make them feel better. Or their movie collection makes them feel better. I think that could be therapeutic, but I don't know. What's healthy for one person is destructive for another person. Everyone has to make that decision. For Radical Reggie, maybe, having all those games in his small living area and going without, maybe it's a point of pride. Like, hey, you know what? I probably need new tires on the car, but I'm going to buy these games. It's reckless. I don't know. I'd like to think that a lot of that is an act. I would like to think that. And he's actually not going without and drinking expired soda for the collecting, but something tells me it's probably not. Maybe he actually is proud to sacrifice for that gaming collection.